You ever notice that big heavy bar on an exit door? Or that little sprinkler head in the ceiling? Well, they're not just random fixtures. They're actually the final chapter of a really dramatic story. See, we're surrounded by this invisible network of safety systems, and pretty much every single one was born from a tragedy that forced us to learn a lesson the hard way. So today, we're going to explore that history. A history written in fire that, believe it or not, keeps us safe every single day. Okay, so let's dial it back to 1903. Right in the heart of Chicago, a brand new, beautiful theater called the Iroquois opens its doors. And it's advertised with this incredibly bold, almost arrogant promise: it's absolutely fireproof. Just 1 month later, that promise wasn't just broken, it was shattered. A fire broke out during a packed show. This number you're looking at, 602, that's the number of men, women, and children who died that day. It's still the deadliest single-building fire in all of American history. So how on earth did a building that was supposedly fireproof turn into such a horrific death trap? Well, this one event was a brutal lesson, and it became the catalyst for some massive changes. But to really get why we have the safety rules we do now, we have to look at the long list of things that went wrong.
The thing is, this tragedy wasn't just one single failure. It was a horrifying domino effect. It started with a spark that ignited a curtain, the supposedly asbestos fire curtain, which, get this, was actually made of wood pulp, snagged and wouldn't drop all the way. The smoke vents above the stage, which were designed to pull the fire and smoke up and out, were sealed shut. As people panicked and rushed for the exits, they discovered the doors opened inward. The sheer weight of the crowd made them impossible to open. And to make it all so much worse, other exits were just hidden behind drapes. There were no sprinklers, no alarms, no emergency lights. It was a total, catastrophic system failure.
The horror of what happened at the Iroquois sparked this furious public outrage. I mean, people were demanding action, and not just in Chicago, but across the country. This was really the moment that fire safety went from just being a good idea to being the law.
And the direct result of all that outrage was this huge wave of change. Now, the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, had actually been formed a few years earlier, but the Iroquois fire gave its mission a terrifying new urgency. In the aftermath, cities started adopting real, enforceable fire codes. And that's what gave us things we don't even think about today: exit doors that always open outward, and the invention of the panic bar, that bar you can just push to open a door. And right at the center of this whole movement was the NFPA. And you know, it's kind of funny. It was actually started by a group of insurance companies. Their goal? They just wanted to standardize the design for one new piece of tech: the automatic fire sprinkler. Today, that little group has grown into this massive organization that creates over 300 safety codes that are used all over the world.
Which brings us to a really crucial piece of this whole puzzle: the automatic fire sprinkler. It's a pretty simple device that basically acts as an instant, on-site firefighter.
It's a simple question, right? But the answer is actually surprisingly clever. And I promise you, it's not what you've seen in the movies. So how does it really work? Okay, so think of each sprinkler head as its own little independent, heat-activated firefighter. Inside that small glass bulb, there's a special liquid. When a fire heats the air around it, that liquid expands and pop, it shatters the bulb. That releases a plug, and water immediately sprays downward right onto the source of the heat. It's a simple, purely mechanical process, which is exactly what makes it so incredibly reliable.
And this is the most crucial point. So you have to forget everything you've seen in action movies. Pulling a fire alarm does not set off the sprinklers. They do not all go off at once and flood the entire building. In reality, sprinklers activate one by one and only when they are directly heated by a fire. This super precise response not only controls the fire, it also minimizes any water damage.
So how effective is this technology really? Well, according to the NFPA, in buildings with properly maintained sprinkler systems, those sprinklers alone controlled the fire 96% of the time. 96%! That is an absolutely incredible track record for one piece of equipment.
But, you know, progress is never just a straight line. Let's fast forward to the 1970s. Despite all the lessons from the Iroquois and other disasters, the United States was somehow facing an even bigger, more widespread fire crisis. In 1973, a federal commission released a landmark report called America Burning. And this one quote, well, it just sums up their findings perfectly. The United States was, to put it bluntly, the worst among all developed nations when it came to fire losses. And the numbers behind that conclusion were just staggering. Every year, 12,000 deaths, 300,000 serious injuries, billions and billions of dollars in damage. It wasn't just a problem. It was a full-blown national emergency, and it demanded a federal response.
And that response came in 1974 with the Federal Fire Prevention and Control Act. This law basically created a national agency that was focused on tackling the fire problem through public education, research, and improving technology for firefighters and for all of us in our homes and buildings. And all of this history, from a theater fire in 1903 to a government report in the 70s, it all leads us to today. Sprinklers are everywhere in commercial buildings, but the front line in the fight for fire safety has moved. Now, it's taking place in our own homes.
So here's the situation right now. For over a decade, the model codes, which are basically the best practice recommendations from all the safety experts, have required fire sprinklers in all new homes. But here's the catch. Only 2 states, California and Maryland, have actually made that the law. In the rest of the country, there's this huge gap between what the experts say is the standard and what's legally required.
So why the gap? Well, it comes down to a really fierce debate. On one side, you have home builders associations, and they argue that making sprinklers mandatory just drives up the cost of new houses too much, and that modern smoke alarms are good enough. But on the other side, you've got safety advocates, and they argue that modern homes, with all our synthetic furniture, burn way faster than they used to. They point out that sprinklers are crucial for protecting the most vulnerable, like kids and the elderly, and that not installing them means failing to meet the established standard of care for building a safe home.
So when you pull all of these threads together, from a tragic theater fire to a modern debate about housing codes, you start to see this really clear pattern. Our safety is literally built on a foundation of hard-learned lessons. Every time you walk through an exit door that opens outward, or you push a panic bar, or you see a sprinkler head in an office ceiling, you are looking at the direct legacy of a past disaster. These aren't just features of a building. They're an unseen shield, a testament to the long, difficult fight to make our world just a little bit safer.
And all of that leaves us with one final question to think about. In this constant tension between cost and regulation and safety, when the experts have already established a clear standard for what's safe, is just meeting the bare minimum of the law really enough?